Okay, good evening. We're learning Lil Nishmasim Imrasi, Esther Bashlem Ahmed Alevi. Okay, we're in the middle of a sugya, just to reiterate. It's the sugya of Shricha Shirayim, or better said, Shvicha Shirayim, the spilling of the Shirayim on the Yisayid. We said there's 5 mentions of it in the Torah. All those mentioning is by a Korban Chatas. The first 2 is mentioned by the Par Kohen Mashiach, Parhel and Dava. The next one is by the Seir of the Nasi, and the last one is by the Korban of the Yachid, the Yechidim. But by Yechidim, it's mentioned 2 different ones. It's mentioned by the sheep and by the goat, by the sheep and the goat. So you have a total of 5 times it mentions Shvichas Hashemayim. By the first 3, it says Mizbeach Ha'olah. It's Mizbeach Ha'olah. And from those 3 times that it said Mizbeach Ha'olah, we learned 3 halachas. The first halacha we learned that the Shvicha Shirayim is on the outside Mizbeach, not the inside Mizbeach. In other words, you would have thought since the first 2 was put on the golden Mizbeach, the Kohen Mashiach and the Helam Dava, so you'd pour the rest down the Mizbeach. The second one says there was no yisoid to the Mizbeach Pnimi, which makes the first limud unnecessary. And we said if you didn't have that limud, you wouldn't have that limud. Okay, and the third mention was that Mizbeach Ha'olah, that all the karbanis, not lav dafka chatas, but any carbon that was put on the Mizbeach ha'chitzain, the Shricha Shirayim was the Mizbeach ha'chitzain. Good. Now, what we don't have a source for is the power of Yom Kippur. We don't have a source. Now, power of Yom and the Seir of Yom Kippur, they're both chatas panimius. They're both brought inside, but we don't have a source that you pour the Shirayim, you pour on the side on the outside. Okay. So we're going to go back and revisit. We're going to revisit yesterday's brisa. Now the last thing, again, you have to listen well, and I have to be masber well. So I'll do my best, and you do yours. Right? Yeah, us too. By the last limud was, fellas, that every korban on the mizbeach hachitzon, you pour the blood down the mizbeach hachitzon. The Gemara asked the kasha. Why was the Gemara's kasha? Maybe it's there to tell me that any zurika should be kineged the yisoid. The yisoid is on the north and west side of Mizbeach, south and east is none. So maybe it's to tell me that. So we had Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael both giving kal v'chomis. Why not? Okay, so let's pick it up. We're picking it up on Nun Beis Amid Aleph. We're picking it up on Nun Beis Amid Aleph. On the so the Gemara says, it says, it doesn't say that you can go ahead and put it on the side of the oila. It says Mizbeach oila. So obviously it must mean that you throw it on the shrine goes down. So you have Iksiv el Yisoida oila. If it would have said, in other words, the Gemara said, how could you have entertained, guys, how could you have entertained the idea to go ahead and that teaching me that the blood has to go on the Yisoid, on the Mizbeach. After all, we know that there is the carbon, the chatas, which goes on the top, guys. In other words, you're telling me that you throw it on the Mizbeach, you do this rika by the Yisoid. We know there's a carbon that you do not do this rika by the Yisoid. What carbon is that? The chatas. The chatas you put on top. So the Gemara is questioning, how could you have entertained in the third limud the need to say that possibility that you need the Yisoid? We know it's not true. Right? So the Gemara, how does the Gemara word that? The Gemara words it the following way. Eina ella, again, Mizbach shel oila, Yeheli Yisoid, that the Mizbeach oila should be the Yisoid. Mikasiv el Yisoida oila, and then you would explain it to mean that you give Yisoid, that you put this rika by Yisoid. El Yisoid Mizbeach oila kasiv. Ad Lashon Mizbeach oila is mashma that it's speaking on all the kabbanis. So how could you go ahead and entertain that? Says the Gemara, Ihavi kasiv el Yisoida oila. If you know the reason, if it would have said the Yisoida oila, I would have made the following mistake. Why couldn't it said it? I would have said Havamina b'sekifa el Yisoid. So guys, look, the Yisoid is like this. You had viewed Mizbeach like a square, And now your side comes out like this. Look at my hands. I'm always with the hands, right? Like this. So now you have the side that's connected. So you would have thought your side means you put the kifa on this side. Therefore, that's the mizbeach. I would tell me, no, you put it on top. Right? That's what I would have said. So have amina. I have ksiva yisoida oila. Have amina miskifa yisoid. Hashid ksiva yisoida mizbeach ha'oila. Agagoy the yisoid. It's on the gag of the yisoid. So now, therefore, right now I can entertain the reason. In other words, even though it says mizbeach ha'oila, that's to tell me it's on the gag, but I still cannot go ahead and entertain. Maybe it's to teach me that you go ahead and you do a zrika keneged the oila, but not to teach me that all karbanis go on the mizbeach. So that comes now. Amr Rabbi Yishmael, gag yisoid lamali, gag yisoid lamali kra. What do you need a pasuk for? Kal v'chaymahu. It's a kal v'chaymer. Umashi yorei chatas. She'enim mechaperes. Tuna gag. Shiyori chatas. They're not mechaper. Right? Again, because it's left over. That they need the gag. Yisoid gag yisoid. The chilas oila shemechaperes. Ein din shetuna gag yisoid. And the gag is needed for the chatas, even though it's not mechaper, because it's a shirayim. Certainly for the techila, the oila, you would go ahead, Rod, and you would need the side. So what? Need what? Yeah, the techilas oila shemachaperes and on these matanis. It's not dafka oil, I think. Matan dam and it's chapa for an assay. So then it means that it mechaper means it makes the carbon baratza. It's not leftover. It's not shiyarim. Right. So now we're explaining why l'chayra the pasuk why you can't entertain the second part of the pasuk, only the first part of the pasuk. Rabbi Akiva says Rabbi Akiva shiyari chatas she'ein mechaper and ve'ein boyin lechaper. They're not mechaper and ein boyin lechaper. We'll see what that means in the Gemara. Tuna gag yisoid tchilas ba'oila shemechaper sebol lechaper ein adin shetuna gag yisoid. So im kain, if this was coming to teach me, ma tamid loyma al yisoid mizbeach ha'oila, it must be ten yisoid mizbeach shaloila. In other words, what does the Kal V'chayma do, guys? The Kal V'chayma goes ahead and it eliminates, right? It eliminates that you do speaker by the yisoid. So Mamela, once, because I know that from a Kal V'chayma. So once I know the Kal V'chayma, what's the reason of the pasuk? The pasuk is to teach me that every carbon that goes on mizbeach hachitzayin requires shvicha shirayim. Good. Now, what's the difference? My binayu. What's the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael? What's the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael? They're both saying the same thing, right? They're both apparently saying, okay, they're both apparently saying the same thing, that you would know that you need the yisoid for this rika, right? Because madach the chatas needs it, and it's shiarim. Certainly the beginning of the speaking would need it. So Mamela, what's the difference between two of them? Now, the lashon of Rabbi Akiva was what? Look at the Rabbi Akiva. Ma shiori chata shem mechaber in boim lechaper. But in came matam leim lisam esbech ten yisam esbech shaloila. My binayu Rav Ada barava shirayim ma'akvin ikabinayu. Now, guys, everyone holds that mizbeach hachitzayin, any carbon on mizbeach hachitzayin, the shirayim is not ma'akiv. The whole shaila of shirayim being a problem, meaning if you don't do shirayim correctly, it's problematic, is by the chatas pinimius, by the Helam Dava, the Kohen Mashiach, and Yom Kippur. So this whole shaila, this whole dialogue, whether the shirayim is mechaper or not, is going on the mizbeach on the chatas pinimius. That's good, very important. Very important. It's going on the chatas pinimius. But chatas chitzonius, there's no havamina that shirayim is ma'akiv. There is a shirayim and it's not ma'akiv. But it might be part of the avodah. So we'll see. So now we want to say the machloikas between Rabbi Akiva, Masava ma'akve, Rabbi Shmuel will hold it's ma'akiv, Umasava Rabbi Akiva loy ma'akve. Now why would they hold that? Look at Rashi, guys. Ma'akve nikabinayu. Rabbi Shmuel Sava, write my parallel a little bit down. Rabbi Shmuel Sava kaparuhu d'loy machapre. It's not part of the kapara. Aval akuve ma'akve, but it would stop the carbon from being a good carbon. In other words, it's not ma'akiv the kapara, but the carbon would be possible. Rabbi Akiva de Moisif, and Rabbi Akiva adds 3 words. Ve'ein boy le kapara. Why does he add those 3 words? Is not coming le kapara. Ashmeinon de ein matan domim shel matanis taluyim behem The matanas are not totally in the shirayim. It doesn't stop you from nazah. So this is the machlokes between. So Rabbi Yishmael, who does not say that ein bar lechaper, he says it doesn't, not for a kapara, not, but the shayim would be ma'akiv. Masha'enke Rabbi Akiva, who adds the word ve'ein bar lekapara, mean ve'ein bar lekapara, the shayim is not ma'akiv, that's zois, and everything works out. Good. That's the way the Stam the Gemara learns. The Tanakama learns. Well, it's not the Tanakama. It's unstated on Moira. So again, guys, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel are saying why you know that you need your side, and I don't need it from the pasuk because I have a kavachaymer, and therefore the pasuk is teaching me that even though fellas, it says the shvicha shirayim by chatos, even though it only says shvicha shirayim by chatos. The last limud of Mizbeach HaOila by Seir is coming, by the Seir of the Nasi, is coming to teach me that every carbon that's brought on the Mizbeach HaChitzayin, every one needs Shvicha Shirayim. One more time, I'm going to say it one more time. Everyone's going to listen. Everyone's going to try. We had 3 limudim, right? We had three Mizbeach HaOila to go ahead and darshan. The first one we darshan that you put the shirayim on the outside mizbeach, even though the spritzing is done on the inside, you do on the outside. And the second limud is to tell me that there is no yisod to the outside. And the third one is to teach me, that's what we're donning now. The third one is to teach me, don't think only a chatos requires shvicha shirayim. Every carbon on mizbeach achitzayin requires shvicha shirayim. Now, be aware right now, if you're tuning in, we have Helam Dover openly shvicha shirayim. We have Koy Mashiach, openly Shvicha Shirayim. We have the limud, everyone on the outside, Shvicha Shirayim. We don't have a source for Pariyam and Yom Kippur. We don't have a Pariyam Yom Kippur. There's no source for that. Okay? And that's going to be one of the limudim. So now, what do we have? The Kal V'Chomer teaches me that third limud is a limud. The third limud is only kabbalah. Why? Because I know that you do zrika by an oila, you need your side. If a chatas that's not mechapet shirayim needs your side, certainly the kapara, which is totally in the initial zrika, needs your side. So we're holding right now is what's the difference between the Kal V'Chomer, Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Yishmael? The nafkim that would be whether shirayim is ma'akiv or not. According to Rabbi Yishmael, it is ma'akiv. According to Rabbi Akiva, who added 3 words, ve'ein bar lekapara, means it's not ma'akiv. So right now, if you just walked in, everything was in the last minute or so was chaza ibid, as Kenny would say. Now, says the Gemara Vaita, we have another opinion as to what the machloikis between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva. Rav Papa Omar, the Kuli Alma Shirayim Ein Ma'akvin. Even Rabbi Yishmael would hold that the Shirayim is not Ma'akiv. Even Rabbi Yishmael would hold Shirayim is not Ma'akiv. V'hocha b'mitzli chatas ha'oif Ma'akiv kamiflagi. Oh, guys, outside. One of there's 2 kabbanas that you bring from the oif, either an oilas oif or chatas oif. You can bring an oilas oif as an adava. We also find that there's certain, if you're very poor, not extremely poor, just a little poor, you bring 2 birds. We know a yoledis bring birds. There's always birds being brought. One of the birds is a chatas oif. The chatas oif, here's what you do. You do malika, you split it, but you don't remove the head. Then you go like this. Hazah. This is below the chut hasikra, even though it's a chatas. You do this, and then you do mitzvah. You take it and you push it against the wall of the mizbeach. Now, question. Mitzvah is like shirayim, because already you did the hazah, that's the zrika. So if you would hold that you have to do mitzvah, you would hold shirayim, it's ma'akiv, right? If you hold that it's not. Okay, so that's, Rabbi Papa is going to suggest that's the machloikas between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael says mitzvah is ma'akiv, and Rabbi Akiva holds not. So he holds not whether it's ma'akiv or not shirayim. Everyone holds according to Rabbi Papa shirayim is not ma'akiv by chatas pnimius. The machloikas is what is by oif. Very geschmack. Says the Gemara inside. The Papa Amar, the Kuliyal Mishraim Ma'akvin. Everyone holds Shraim is not ma'akiv, even Rabbi Yishmael. V'hacha b'mitzli chatas oif ma'akiv kamifski. The machloikas is by mitzli chatas oif, by pressing it. Mar savar, Rabbi Yishmael is of the opinion ma'akiv. Umar savar and Rabbi Akiva loy ma'akiv. Good. That's it. Now, Tanya Kavasi the Rav Papa, you would normally say that the machloikas is in mitzli of chatas oif. No. Tanya Kavasi the Rav Papa, that everyone's moida by chatas chitzat and pnimius, that it's not ma'akiv. In other words, because that was his he prefaced the change of pshat. He changed the pshat for this reason. Okay? It must be really hard to listen to this. What?
It's exciting.
You're not bad? I never delude myself just because I say something that people understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
So guys, again, Rabbi Papa said the following. Again, the Stam Gemara said the chilik was, Rabbi Shmuel says that it's ma'akiv. He says it's not ma'akiv, and therefore the difference is by chatas oif. The brisa is going to be a hard brisa, and we need the brisa for one line. That's that one line. An inference that he holds that what? That it's not ma'akiv. Good. That again, we're looking for that. We're looking for that by chatas panemius. It's not ma'akiv. Meaning, if you don't do shirayim, you're good. If you don't do shirayim, you're good. Tanya Kabbalah Papa. It says the pasuk says. V'nasan hakoyim in Adam al karnas mizbeach k'toiris. This is by the koyim Mashiach. Hasamim l'fnei Hashem Asher bo'el moyed. V'es kol dam hapor yishboich el yesod mizbach ha'oilo Asher pesach ol moyed. So this is the pasuk by koyim Mashiach that says that what you have to do shvicha. Again, one of the first of the five, and it says in that pasuk v'es kol hapar yishboich. Now, why did you have to say dam? It's called dam hapar. Why did you have to say hapar? We know we're speaking about a par. Guys, it's speaking about a par. That's the koyim and Adam el karnas with whole. This is pasuk Zion. You've been discussing the par. So the word par is extra. You know what comes to teach me? That Yom Kippur also needs shvicha shirayim on the side. Because you don't have that one. Again, remember, you have koyim Mashiach, you have Helm Dava, you have every other carbon on the outside. The one carbon you don't have is Yom Kippur. So the extra word par, which appears, is to teach me Yom Kippur.
That's not on the inside.
What?
But that's not entirely on the inside.
But the shvicha shirayim is speaking about. How do you know, despite the fact that the dam is put on the inside mizbeach, that you're going to pour the shirayim on the outside mizbeach? It doesn't say that by there. Yeah.
That was the two says that they brought on Yom Kippur. That was
the par and the soyer.
But in the other one, that was the
That was one. That was one off the cliff. They didn't.
Yeah.
This
so didn't they take that blood and mix it with a par, and didn't they take that blood then and throw it into the sod?
Again, where do you know you do that?
But the blood is mixed already with the.
Again, but where do you know? Again, we're speaking about both. We're speaking about the par and the seir.
I thought we had
you never. That was the seir nasi. This is the seir of Yom Kippur, right? That's the seir of the nasi. Very good, Baruch. But again, the kol dama par yishboich matam aloim hapar. Why do you have to say hapar? Limud al par yom kippurim shetoyin matan domim liyasoid. That the par of Yom Kippur also has to go there. Good, because you didn't have a source of that. Divrei Rabbi, Rabbi Shmuel kal v'chayme. You don't need a pasuk. A kal v'chayme, fellas, that the par's dam of Yom Kippur goes on the side, meaning you shrayim. Uma imi she'ein nichnas damei lifnim chayva. Toyin Yisoid, a carbon that does not go inside lifnim as a chayv, meaning there's no chiyuv to bring the helam davar, there's no chiyuv to bring the koyim Mashiach. Nonetheless, Toyin Yisoid, misha nichnas dami lifnim chayva. Every Yud Tishrei you're bringing it in. Not you, but someone who's got a desire to live, not to die, right? Eino din shetoyin Yisoid. In other words, why do I need a pasuk to tell me that Yom Kippur, the Shirayim goes on the side, fellas? I know it from Kal V'chomer. Madach the Helam Davak Mashiach, which is not a chayv. It goes on the side, the Shirayim. So certainly ones that are chayv to bring in, so it goes on the side. So why do you need a pasuk? Why do you need the par to tell me? Says Rabbi Shmuel to Rabbi, I don't know why you need the word par to teach me Yom Kippur. I know Yom Kippur from a Kal V'chomer from Koyim Mashiach. And Amar Rabbi Akiva, Uma mi she'ein damei nichnas l'fnai l'fnim. Bein l'chayva, bein l'mitzvah. The helam davar doesn't go inside ever. L'fnai l'fnim. It doesn't go inside the kodesh kadashim. Tayin yisoid, mi shenichnas dama chayva l'fnai l'fnim. Eino din shetayin yisoid. Is it not din that tayin yisoid? Is it not? It's not a din that it should require. Is it not a din that it should require yisoid? Good. In other words, both. They have a Kal V'chomer. Sai Rabbi Shmuel, Sai Rabbi Akiva have a Kal V'chomer to teach me. I don't need the pasuk of par to teach me Yom Kippur. I know it from a Kal V'chomer. I'll give you the two Kal V'chomers. Guys, watch. Rabbi Shmuel's Kal V'chomer. Madach a carbon. There's no mitzvah to bring, but if you have to bring it, you bring it. Meaning the chatas panemius, par helam dava koyim Mashiach. Yet where does the dam Mishraim go on the side? every Yud Tishrei where you're going to bring Lefnim, Einay Din, and it's a chayv, you got to bring it. Einay Din is going to your side. That's Rabbi Yishmael. Says Rabbi Akiva, Madach one, that you're going to bring it. You're going to bring it inside, but you're never going to bring it inside, needs your side. Certainly Yom Kippur, where you're going to bring it inside, needs your side. Good? So now.
You can't say less by something that's a chayv. You can't say less. This is it. That's the Kral Chama.
I mean, it seems to be Yom Kippur is more chomer.
More chomer.
So once it's more chomer, it's a kal v'chaymer.
Right.
Madach, the less goes on the side. Certainly more chomer. That's that. The shayla is what's the chumrah, whether it's the chiyuv or whether it's location. Anyway, so now you didn't tell me why you need the pasuk. You didn't tell me why you need the pasuk, right? And again, what's our mission? Our mission is to find Rav Papa is that's not ma'akiv. Yachol ya'akvenu. I might think if you don't put it on, guys, halkaf. I might think if you don't put it on the side, it's ma'akiv. I might think if you don't put it on the side that, in other words, I might think shirayim is ma'akiv. Tamid loymar. It says in Pashas Achrimos, v'chilu mechaper es hakodesh, right? V'chila, and they finish being mechaper es hakodesh. What does that mean? Shomu kol hakaporos kulon, right? Everything that's written in Pashas Achrimos, you finish. You know what's not written in Pashas Achrimos? Shvicha Shirayim. So what do you say? Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. So what did Rabbi Yishmael just tell us? Right? He just told us that it's not ma'akiv. This is the raya to Rav Papa. Guys, this is that one line. Guys, again, eye contact. We want to bring it, always in learning, you always have to follow it. We want a raya that the reason why Rav Papa said the machloikas between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael was chatas pinimius, chatas oif, was because he holds Shirayim's not ma'akiv. The first Mandiyama said the machloikas was with Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva was whether it was ma'akiv or not. Rabbi Yishmael said, yeah. He said, not so. You can't say that. Said Rabbi Yishmael, no. Everyone holds by it's not ma'akiv. And again, only chatas panemius, not ma'akiv. Good. Everyone holds that. Okay. What's the machloikas? Chatas oif. Where do you? In the Tanya Kavasi will bring a brisa to say yachol yakvenu. I might think. So in other words, I just proved from a kal v'chaymer. What? That I don't need par. And we're not going to answer that, by the way. We're not going to answer that. The extra word par that it says by Kohen Mashiach, I don't need for par because we know it's speaking about a par. Says the Tanakama. You know what it's teaching me? It's teaching me that Yom Kippur you pour it down. Also Shirayim. Freg Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Akiva. I don't need a pastor to teach me that. I have a kal v'chaymer to teach me that. Good. Now, Yochel Yakvenu, I might think that now that you prove from a kal v'chaymer that Shvicha Shirayim is required. By what? By the Chatas Pnimis of Yom Kippur, both the Par and the Seir. And in other words, he finished doing all the Avodah, and fellas, there it says Chukah, in Parshas Achimos, to teach me that if you don't do any of the Avodas, it's Ma'akiv. To teach me, if you don't do any of the Avodas, it's Ma'akiv. You know what it doesn't say in Parshas Achimos? Shvicha Shirayim. So, what do you have a raya? That's not Ma'akiv. It's Geshmak.
Yeah.
Geshmak, right. But we have a problem. We didn't finish what the pasuk's for. You have par. What's the pasuk the par for? Yeah. We're doing good. Seems to there's some people the elevator is going to the top floor. You know, I could see it on their faces. Anyway. Kal v'chomer lepar kohen Mashiach. Okay, now. So we see Shirayim is not ma'akiv, right? We see that Shirayim is not ma'akiv. Now, the Gemara now is going to be in Brisa to learn out of Kal v'chomer that it's unnecessary to say Shvicha Shirayim by the Kohen Mashiach, where it says in Mefurish. Guys, in other words, we just had a Kal v'chomer to say you don't need a lima for Yom Kippur. We're going to have a bigger thing now. We don't need the open pasuk by Kohen Mashiach to tell me it's mechaper. I have a Kal v'chomer. From a Kal v'chomer, I can get rid of it. So that's what the Gemara is going to do right now. Says the Gemara. Kal v'chomer l'par Kohen Mashiach. We have a Kal v'chomer that what? So why do you need the pasuk by Kohen Mashiach to tell me that Shirayim is poured? I have a raya that Shirayim is poured. Me'ata. Umay mi shein nichleis domi lifnim. a carbon that you don't bring its blood inside, loy l'chayv v'loy l'mitzvah. What's that? Any carbon that's born in the Mizbeach. Oh no. The Seir, guys, number 3. It says by the Nasi's carbon in the Chatas analyst, Mashiach Helam Dava, the Nasi, it says Shricha Shirayim. It never goes inside. It's a Chatas Chitzonius. The blood never goes inside. So now, a carbon that blood doesn't go inside at all, loy l'chayva v'loy l'mitzvah, 0, nonetheless tying your side, because it says openly by the sayer of the Nasi, you throw it on your side. Mi shenichles dami lefnim, bein l'chayva, take out the word bein l'chayva, bein l'mitzvah, ain't I din shetoyin your side? So why do you have to write it, what? Why do you have to write par? Why do you have to write the parsha of the pasuk of Shvicha Shirayim by Kohen Mashiach? The Gemara's not going to answer that kasha, guys. The Gemara's not going to answer the kasha. It didn't answer the kasha why you need the limit of Yom Kippur from par. It doesn't answer the kasha why you have to write it in the Torah by Kohen Mashiach. But just be aware. Yachal Yakvena. I might think that since it's stated in the pasuk, I might think it's ma'akiv because it's double. No, I might think it's doubled in the pasuk. It's ma'akiv. Talmud Loimar v'eskol ha'par yishboich. Now yishboich is a funny lashon. Look at Rashi, guys. The bottom Rashi, 2 lines to the bottom. Talmud Loimar v'eskol dama par nitgo ha'kosiv misei deshar avoidus. It goes ahead and removes it from the other v'yasu shiori mitzvah. It makes it a remnant of a mitzvah. Sheshana behilach l'shaynai. It changes the lashon. Shekol avoidus kasiv. All the avoidus it says, guys. The lokach, the hiza, the nasan al karnois, the kanle kasiv, shafach damay yisaid. Elashana mashmoy lenakle mechal avoidus. It says yishboich leimar she'ein chayve kamay oisa. In other words, yishboich. It doesn't say it should be yishboich. He should pour, but it's not a chiyuv. It's mishiyari mitzvah. So therefore, it's not ma'akiv. So. Yishbech nitko akosav lasis vasu shiori mitzvah leimalacha shirayim ema akvin. Okay, so right now, let's take count where we're holding. We had the third limud. The third limud was to teach me that all the kabbanis go on the mizbeach achitzain. That all kabbanis on the mizbeach achitzain, the shirayim goes down. We learned, and the only one that we didn't account for is Yom Kippur, because it says Helam Dover and Kohen Mashiach openly. Right? We learned from the word par of Yom Kippur. We learned par of Yom Kippur, that extra word by Kohen Mashiach, par to include Yom Kippur. The Gemara doesn't know why. I have a kal v'chaim there. Either Rabbi Shmuel or Rabbi Akiva have a kal v'chaim there that you should go in the side without the pasuk. Okay? And I might think it's a ma'akiv, Talmud Loima, that it said the lashon v'chila mechaper, like that only in the parsha of Achrei Moses mechaper, and it doesn't say shvicha shirayim Achrei Moses memela. I know it's not ma'akiv. And again, the whole shayla ma'akiv is by Chatas Panemius. Okay. We then have the same conversation regarding why do we need the pasuk of Param Kohen Mashiach. That doesn't go inside requires it. Certainly one that goes inside requires it. Gemara doesn't answer that. Yachal Yakvena, and we bring a pasuk. Okay. Now Rav Papa, so that was the right to Rav Papa that by Chatas Panemius it's not ma'akiv. So what was his machloikas between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel? Whether Chatas ha'oif, whether it needs mitzvah or not. According to Rav Papa, according to Rav Yishmael, it required mitzvah. According to Rabbi Akiva, like Rabbi Shmuel Papa, it did not require mitzvah. Now we're going to go ahead and revisit that. The Savar Rabbi Shmuel mitzvah chatas ha'oif ma'akiv. Does Rabbi Shmuel hold that mitzvah chatas ha'oif is ma'akiv? But Tana debate Rabbi Shmuel. We learned it. The pasuk this is by chatas ha'oif. V'hizim midam chatas al kerem mizbech. He should spitz. V'anisha b'dam. You might say whatever's left over, he should squeeze al yisod mizbech chatas hu. Now, v'ashar you might say, u'she'ena nishar lo you might say. Guys, if you hold that you have to go ahead and do this, you got to make sure that you have leftover blood. It's mashma. Whatever's left over, you compress. Mashma, if there's no leftover, you don't have to press. So how can you tell me Rabbi Shmuel holds that it's ma'akiv, you have to do it? You see that you don't have to do it. Only if there's left over do you have to do it. If you had to do it, you had to make sure that there was still blood left on this bird. And it says over here not. So you have the way Rav Papa learned, you have a stira in Rabbi Yishmael. He learned that Rabbi Yishmael requires mitzui, meaning you have to make sure blood is left over in the chatas ha'if. And over here it says openly, vanishar. If it's left over, yeah. Left over, not. If it's not, right. Oh, so that's my answer. Trey Tanoi Valiv Rabbi Yishmael. You have two Tanaim according to Rabbi Yishmael. You have two opinions according to Rabbi Yishmael.
Why do you need to consider like a nice on itself? Because unlike dam, it's ready to separated from the behemoth. So he's doing sweeper, whereas meat, like it's part of it still.
You also threw the animal. You went like this. You spritz the blood off. You spritz blood off, and that's a separate. This
It's part of the bird stuff.
It doesn't make a difference. It's part of the avoida of. It's part of the avoida. We can view mitzvah similar to shirayim. We can view mitzvah similar to shirayim. You did the avoida. You have leftover blood. I did the avoida. I have leftover blood. It's not in the kli. It's in a bird. Right. It's the only difference. It's not a kli. It's in a bird. Okay. So now, Ama Rami Bar Chama. Now, guys, Roy Machama is a long brisa, long-winded, and we're going to get in the end. We'll get to it. So hang in there. Ami Roy Bar Chama. Hi Tana Sava Shirayim Akve. I have a Tana who holds that Shirayim is Ma'akiv. Guys, I have a Tana who holds Shirayim is Ma'akiv. It's a hard brisa, and you're going to need one line, similar to what we just did before. Good. Now, the Tanya. Now, this says Hakoyin. This is said by the Kohen Mashiach. It says the Hakoyin Amachata. No, I don't Mashiach. It's said by, I think, a regular chatas. I think it's said by a regular chatas. The Hakoyin Amachata Isa Yochlena. I'm not sure. I shouldn't say it's said by chatas. Like we have where was it? Above your test, we have a chumash. What? By where?
Part of the chatas.
Part of the chatas. Okay, fine. It's good. It's part of the chatas. Anyway, yeah, it's part of Zois Teres Chatas. Okay, it's part of right. It's part of Zois Teres Chatas. So now, what does it say? It says Hakoyin Amachata. I saw the koyin that spritzes it. Or the word I saw, he gets to eat it. Now, what's the I saw, guys? What's the I saw? I saw shenitin domo lemaila. In other words, only if you did it correctly. A chatas goes above the chut sikra. But if you put what was supposed to be above, you put below, that is not acceptable. That will not be acceptable. It's puzzle, and you couldn't eat it. Okay? Again, but you got to do it correctly. Place, location it counts. Location. It counts. It has to be above. And if you put what should be above, you put below, it's a no-no. Now, B'chime'ein bus. Why would you think that you need a pasuk to tell me no? Guys, you got a pasuk. I saw. If you do it right, yeah, not. In other words, there's a svara to say that it should be okay if you put it in the wrong location, that I need a pasuk to tell me it's possible. Right? V'chime'ein basa. Nechal shenemar, it says, V'dam zevachecha yishafech al mizbeach, al mizbach. V'dam yishafech al mizbach Hashem lekecha babasa tochel lamatna lenitonin b'matan arba shem nitna b'matana achas kiper. Okay, guys, we had this earlier in the Masechta. It says yishbach is lashon yachid. So let's say you're supposed to do a chatas. How many lichatchila? How many do you need? Light lichatchila you need 4. B'di'eved light b'shamai is 2. Light Beis Hillel is 1. Where do you know Beis Hillel from? This pasuk, because it says Yishpoich, it's a lashon yachid. So you know 1. So here's the svara. If I would have, since I know you need 4 and you do 1, it's okay. So I would think the same thing. As long as it gets in this mizbeach, even though it's in the wrong location, I think it's okay, right? So Yachal, I would therefore think, a carbon chatas which should be above the chiras sikra, you put below the chasiva keeper. I might think, what? It's good, right? Now, vidinhu that I'll show you it's a problem. I'll show you that the wrong location is a problem. Nemar domim lemaila, it says blood above. Nemar domim lemaila says blood above. It's by a chatas. But nemar domim lemata, this is by chatas oif. This is by chatas oif. Ma domim amur lematan by chatas oif. Shenasna lemaila. If you put above the chutas sikra like keeper, it doesn't work. Av domim amur lemaila. So too blood that you put above. In nasna lemata, if you put below like keeper. So why do I need a pasuk to tell me I saw not? Guys, why do I need a pasuk to tell me no? If you go ahead and if you go ahead and the blood that should be above, that a bird that should be below you put above is no good. So a chatas that should be above you put below is also no good. So why do I need a pasuk? Says, I'll tell you the difference. Loyim amir b'tachtoinim, a chatas oif below, shenitna b'nisin l'mayla, shein soif l'mayla. No, there's no. There's no shirayim. In other words, it never comes below. It never comes below. There's no shirayim by the chatas oif. It never comes below. So therefore, what I would say that's why it's no good. Masha'en kain, shein soif l'mayla and lo kiper. Toimim bel yoinim, a chatas that's above the chutas sikra, shenasna lamata that you put below the chutas sikra, sheyesh men karav lamata domim. Because what? It does go below. It does go below. Guys, outside. The Gemara has a problem. It says the kohen amachta oisa, and the kohen who goes ahead and spritzes it, right? The kohen that spritzes it, he will eat it. What does oisa mean? Only if he does it, I saw where it's supposed to be above, but if he does it below, it's not. Now the Gemara has a problem. Why would I need a pasuk to tell me that? Isn't it obvious? Isn't it obvious that after all, if you go ahead and the first limud, the Gemara says, well, why? It's obvious it should be good. In other words, the Gemara's first reasoning. If you're telling me 4 and 1, it's supposed to be 4, and you do 1 works, so maybe who adin, if it's supposed to be below and I put it above, it works. Says the Gemara, what is it? There's a big difference, right? Because over there by the 4. Over there by the 4, no. The Gemara then goes in another direction, nothing. The Gemara now goes in the other direction. I'll tell you a reason that you need it. What's the reason that you need it? The following, right? If you take the chatas oif, right? You take the chatas oif, and you put it above, it doesn't work. So therefore, if you put the chatas that should be above, you put it below, it doesn't work. So therefore, you shouldn't need a pasuk. Therefore, you should need a pasuk. In other words, no, you shouldn't need a pasuk. Again, you should not need a pasuk. Why? If the chatas hoif that goes below you put above doesn't work, so the chatas behema that you put below that you should put above also shouldn't work, and therefore you should need a pasuk. Says the Gemara, no, I'll tell you why you need a pasuk. Here's the reason. You know why a chatas that you go ahead and put above doesn't work? Because it has no shaykhs to above, meaning it's never supposed to be above. You're not accomplishing anything that's above. Masha'enkein, the chatas oif, the chatas behema, which should be the chatas behema, which should be above. You put below, it has shaykhs. Why? What are you going to do with the remnant of the blood? Shirayim, you can put it below. So Memela, I said you cannot learn out what? You cannot learn out a chatas behema that it should not be good from chatas oif. Memela, I need the pasuk to tell me it's not good. That in other words, at this point in time, we worked it out, right? Okay, now we have not even got to the that's ma'akiv. This whole Bryce is to teach me that there's a my Yom says it's ma'akiv. Good? Okay. Now. Okay, says the Gemara Vaita. I'll tell you why that svara doesn't really work. Hapenimium yochichu. The chatas penimius will disprove the svara. Sheyesh mehen korev bachutz. Right? You're going to put the shrine bachutz. The nasna betchila bachutz like kiper. fellas. Well, guys, look. What's your svara? That something has shaykhs to below, right? There's shaykhs to below, right? Like behema. So therefore, I would say it's good. I want to ask you a question. Does the panemius have shaykhs to the outside? Sure, it does. The shrine goes on the outside. What happens if you put the matanas on the outside? It's no good. So the same thing over here. Even though it has shaykhs to below, if you put it in the wrong spot, it also shouldn't be good. So chazak kashul duchte. Why don't I need the pasuk of Isaf? Guys, you're following the trail, okay? Lo yim'amit b'domim hapnimiyim, right? Right. So the she'im mizbeach hapnimim memarkon. We'll see what that means in a second. Meaning that doesn't finish the job, guys. If you after you put the dam pnimi, it doesn't finish the job. You got to do something else. What do you got to do? You got to put the shirayim outside. Is that a right? A shirayim is akif? That's it. That's it, guys. In other words, watch. We want to go ahead and say the following. We need to substantiate a pasuk v'shachar isa. Not excuse me. V'koina machata isa. That what? That if you put something that's below, it doesn't work. We're vacillating back and forth. Why do I need a pasuk? So we concluded, since it has a shaykhs to below, you might think if you put it below, it's okay. Kamash Malan. Says the Gemara, I don't like that svara. I have a chatas panemius that has a shaykhs to the outside. You're going to put the blood on the outside. Yet we know if you put the dam of the panemius outside, not inside, it's no good. So who are doing the same thing over here? Even though the chatas behem has a shaykhs to outside, why? Because you're going to put the shirayim there. If you do the avoid, it's no good. So why do I need the pasuk? Now we're going to disprove that. We're going to disprove that, right? How do you disprove? Lo yamami b'dam hapnimiyin she'im mizbeach hapnimi memarkan. After you go ahead and put the dam, you have to do something. Taima bel yoinim shari karnois memarkais aisan in not lamata ksherim. Okay, so guys, you can't disprove it from Pneumius. I'll tell you why. After you sprinkle the dam on the Mizbeach HaZahav, there's something else you have to do. The Gemara is Havamina. You know what you have to do? You have to go ahead and spill Shirayim. So you see it's an Avodah. So you see it's Ma'akiv. That's the Raya. Masha'en came by what? Chatas Chitzonius that you're putting in the wrong spot. There's nothing else left to do. So maybe since there's nothing else left to do, in her Shaykhis to Mizbeach Havat Hazav, excuse me, Shaykhis to Yisoid, then Mele, you don't need a pasuk. Right? Mele, you would need a pasuk because I would think it's good. You would need a pasuk. Okay, that's what the Gemara is holding right now. In Nasan Lamatik Sherim, Talmud Laima, so I would say, therefore, I would think it's Kasha, Talmud Laima Isa. Isa Shenitin Domim Lamaila, Shenitin Domim Lamata. Good, that's the end of the Brisa. Now, what's the Raya to Rami Bar Chama that it's Ma'akiv? What does it mean? My She'ein Mizbeach Mimarkon, Lav Elu Shirayim, and this is the proof to Rami Bar Chama that Shirayim is Ma'akiv. Amalei Rava, Ihachi, if you're telling me that it's Shirayim's Ma'akiv, then you don't need a pasuk. Watch. Ihachi Tesi b'Kal V'Chomer. You can go ahead and figure out a Kal V'Chomer that it's no good. Uma Shirayim HaPinimiyim. Shesoifen Choiva B'Chutz. Shirayim that's put on the inside. Chatas Pinimiyis that the blood is put on the inside. In the end, it's a chiyuv to bring it on the outside because it's Ma'akiv. You tell me it's Ma'akiv, right? It's a chiyuv to bring on the outside. Asa b'tchila b'chutz lekiper. If you do on the outside, it's no good. Hanitonu l'mayla shein seifa chayva lemata. Hanitonu l'mayla, an animal that hanitonu l'mayla the chatas shein seifa chayva lemata. Why? Don't you have to put it there? Not ma'akiv. Guys, remember the whole shaila of it being ma'akiv is only by chatas pinimius. Chatas chitzonius is not ma'akiv. It's a hard Gemara. I'm sorry. Again, if you're telling me that it's ma'akiv by panemius, I have a kal v'chomer that it shouldn't be good, and you shouldn't need the pasuk. What's the kal v'chomer shouldn't be good? Madach panemius, which says shaykhs to the outside, right? Shaykhs to the outside, that you have to go ahead and do it, right? And if you go ahead, and if you go ahead and don't do it, it's ma'akiv, right? So one that has no shaykhs to the that is no shaykhs to the inside, only shaykhs to the outside, right? She'ein sefer l'chayv lamata, and v'asad b'tchil lamata ein adin shlei keeper. It's not a kal v'chayim that it shouldn't work. So why do you do the pasuk? Again, if you are going to learn this kal v'chayim, again one more time, ma'asharayim apnimi shesayfen chayva, like you're saying b'chutz, that's it's ma'akiv. Awesome b'tchila b'chutz, if you do it initially outside like keeper, hanitanu l'mayla a chatzis chitzonius she'ein sefer chayva lamata. You don't have to do there. It's not ma'akiv. If you awesome b'tchila lamata and you put it below, ein adin shlei keeper, that it shouldn't work. So what do I need a pasuk for? Ella, it must be that what? That you don't, it must be it's not ma'akiv. Ella must be it's not ma'akiv. And therefore, okay, so therefore you have no raya. You're wrong. You're wrong. Because in other words, guys, here's the words. Since I need the pasuk to tell me that it's puzzle, it must be the kal v'chayma does not tell me it's puzzle. Because I don't have the kal v'chayma. You know why I don't have the kal v'chayma? Because it's not ma'akiv. So the question is, so what's the other avoida that they meant that madach mizbeach pnimi is something else to do? What's the something else to do? It's not shirayim, guys. It's not shirayim. Ela ein mizbeach pnimi m'rakon bevad, ela paroiches. And that's after you do, in addition to putting on mizbeach hazov, you have to spritz 7 times in front of it. That's but not shirayim. The male running b'chama has no what? Has no raya. Okay, Tana Rabban in the following brisa. Okay, be aware. It says in Pashas Achrimos, it says all the avoid is there. It says v'chila mechaper. If you do any of them wrong, it says chukah. It's no good. But it does not say shvicha shirayim in the parsha. It does not say shvicha shirayim in the parsha. Tana Rabbanan. V'chila. It says v'chila mechaper. When you finish doing everything. In keeper, if you finish everything, kila. If you mechaper kila, then like keeper like kila. Dear Rabbi Akiva, Amal Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi is going to say the same thing, but he's asking, why did Rabbi Akiva switch around the lashon of the pasuk? Why don't you say like the pasuk says? In kila, if you do the job keeper, in like kila, if you don't do the job like keeper. I'll tell you why. It's teaching me in kila. If you do everything you're supposed to do it, meaning you do the 7 azois and the 4 everything that goes, then keeper. Then if you don't do that, lo yasel klum. My binaya, what's the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael? Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Rishum and Levi. Chad Omar, mashmos doshin givnai. There's no nafkamina. It's only a question that you dash from Bechila and Chad Mechila. It's only the psukim. Chad Omar, no. Shirayim ma'akvin kibinayu. Whether the Shirayim is ma'akiv is the machlokes. Like Rabbi Yishmael, it would be ma'akiv, and like Rabbi Akiva would not be ma'akiv. Now, I said Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, why would it not be ma'akiv like Rabbi Akiva? Because it doesn't say shvicha shirayim in the parsha at all. It doesn't say shvicha shirayim in the parsha at all, so chukah is not going on that. Right? And Rabbi Yehuda would say, even though it's not stated there, still it's part of the avoid of Yom Kippur. Now, to Stein, the Gemara, so that's the Gemara now is going to try to prove that we have Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yochanan both suggesting that one says mashmash darshim, and the other one says what? And the other one says, we're going to try to prove it's Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is the one who says that that's ma'akiv, that's the machlokes, and Rabbi Yochanan therefore must be mashmar darshim. It could be nayu because we don't know who. To Stein, I'll bring you right. The Yeshua ben Levi who the Amish Shirayim the ma'akve. The Yeshua ben Levi, the Divrei Amish Shirayim ma'akve. Like the man the Amish says Shirayim is ma'akiv. Now what happens, guys? Listen to this. You did all the avodas Yom Kippur, everything, guys. You did everything perfect. You mixed the blood together, the pavaseyer, and you're now coming to go ahead and pour it. And it spills out. What do? If Shirayim is ma'akiv, you have to go back to the last avodah and spritz the last one. Good, that's what we're saying. The divrei omer Shirayim ma'akvin maybe parecha. You bring one more paru maskul betchila bifnim. Okay. So now this is who says this? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So l'chayr, let's bring a right. Yeshua ben Levi must hold that the problem is what is Shirayim ma'akiv, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan must be the one who says mashmos dashim. It could be nayo. So at the Rabbi Yochanan Leslie Haisfara, I mean Rabbi Yochanan does not hold the svara of Ma'akiv from Rabbi Yochanan. Tana Rabbi Nechemia Kidibri Oimer Shirayim Ma'akvin. So you see, he does hold it at. So no, it's the fact they both hold it at. You can't tell me that to Stein, right? El, what do you have to say? Kidibri Oimer v'lav lahani tanoi. The Kidibri Oimer, but not. It's not a machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Akiva. They said they did, but not according to this machlokes tanoim. Thank you for listening. It was a hard hour.
Easier in the morning.
What?